Have you ever found yourself fighting for someone who won't lift a finger for you? What if I told you the real battle isn't with them, but with yourself? You stay. You wait. You hope, but deep down, you know something is breaking. Why do we cling so tightly when they've already let go? What silence hides beneath the surface of their inaction? When love becomes a one-sided war, who really wins? Is it possible to love someone and still walk away? What do we lose when we keep waiting for them to show up? And more importantly, what could we gain if we finally let go? Today we'll dive into the truth behind why we fight for the ones who won't fight for us. Love without mutual effort isn't love, it's longing. It's a yearning for connection, a desperate hope that one day the person you care about will turn around and meet you halfway. But the truth is, when love lacks mutual effort, it stops being a bond between two people and becomes a one-sided story, chasing and waiting. You can't build a lasting relationship on a foundation of one person carrying the weight of love alone. No matter how much you give, if the other person isn't willing to meet you where you are, it's not love, it's imbalance. You might tell yourself that patience is a virtue, that if you just hold on a little longer, they'll come back around. You convince yourself that their silence or their lack of effort is temporary, that life has gotten in the way. But real love, love that endures, is not something that disappears when life gets hard. Real love shows up. Real love makes an effort. Real love fights. When someone stops showing up for you, when they no longer make you a priority, it hurts. It feels like rejection, and in some ways it is. But it's also a powerful signal. It's a sign that you're giving your heart to someone who isn't holding it with the same care and commitment you are. That's what. It's a reminder that love without reciprocity isn't love. It's a longing for something that may never come. And the longer you stay in that space of waiting and hoping, the more you start to lose yourself. You begin to question your worth. You start asking yourself, what am I doing wrong? Why won't they fight for me? You replay every conversation, every argument, every moment you thought was perfect, trying to pinpoint where it all started to go wrong. But the truth is, it didn't go wrong because of you. It went wrong because love isn't meant to be one-sided. Love is about two people choosing each other, not one person begging for the other to stay. Longing makes you believe that if you just do more, if you love harder, if you forgive more easily, if you wait longer, they'll finally see your worth. But you can't earn love that way. You can't convince someone to fight for you if they're not willing to do it on their own. Love is a choice that both people have to make every single day. And if they're not making that choice, it doesn't mean you're not enough. It just means they're not ready or willing to show up the way you deserve. It's painful to face the truth that someone you love may not love you back in the same way. It's heartbreaking to realize that the person you've been waiting for has already walked away in their heart, even if their body is still beside you. But acknowledging that reality is the first step toward reclaiming your strength. It's the moment you decide that you deserve more than longing. You deserve love that is full, present, and mutual. When you stop chasing someone who won't fight for you, you open yourself up to the possibility of real connection. You give yourself permission to let go of the endless waiting and start focusing on yourself, on healing, growing, and rediscovering who you are. You stop placing your worth in someone else's hands and start recognizing that your value doesn't diminish because of someone else's inability to see it. Love without mutual effort isn't love, it's longing. It's a painful place to be, but it's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, where you stop waiting for someone else to choose you and start choosing yourself. And in that choice, you'll find the strength to let go, to heal, and to open your heart to the possibility of a love that fights as hard for you as you do for it. Because real love isn't something you have to chase. It's something you build together. Relationships demand shared responsibility. They aren't built by the effort of just one person. They require both partners to show up fully and consistently. This idea may sound simple, but in reality, many relationships suffer because one person shoulders too much, while the other quietly fades into the background. When responsibility isn't shared, love becomes imbalanced, and the connection starts to fray. It's not enough for one partner to always be the one initiating conversations, resolving conflicts, or making sacrifices. True connection requires both people to lean in and carry the weight together. When one person does all the work in a relationship, whether it's emotional labor, practical tasks, or initiating affection, it creates a silent burden. Over time, the partner who's giving more starts to feel unappreciated and drained. They begin to question if the other person truly values them, or if they're simply taking the relationship for granted. The imbalance might not be intentional, but its impact is real. A healthy relationship thrives when both people recognize their role in its growth and actively participate in nurturing. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that love alone is enough to keep a relationship strong. But love without action is just a feeling. No. Responsibility is the action that brings love to life. It's the decision to show up, to listen, to understand, and to compromise. It's being there during the tough times, not just when things are easy. When both partners take responsibility, they create a foundation of trust and respect. They demonstrate that they value each other enough to invest their time, energy, and effort into the relationship. There's a profound difference between a relationship where both people share the load and one where one person carries it all. In a shared relationship, there's mutual support. Each person feels seen and valued, knowing they don't have to face challenges alone. When disagreements arise, both partners work together to find solutions. When one person is struggling, the other steps in to provide strength and reassurance. This mutual effort doesn't mean the relationship is perfect or free of conflict. It means there's a shared commitment to making it work. Responsibility in a relationship also means holding yourself accountable for your actions and words. It's easy to point fingers and blame the other person when things go wrong. But real maturity comes from recognizing your own contributions to the problem. Are you listening as much as you talk? Are you compromising as much as you're asking for compromise? Are you showing up for your partner in the way you hope they'll show up for you? These questions help us step back and see the bigger picture, reminding us that relationships are a partnership, not a solo performance. Shared responsibility is about balance. It doesn't mean both people have to contribute equally in every situation, but it does mean that over time, the relationship feels fair and reciprocal. There will be moments when one person gives more because their partner is struggling, and there will be times when the roles reverse. What matters is the understanding that both partners are willing to carry the load when needed. This balance creates a safe space where love can grow, unburdened by resentment or exhaustion. When responsibility is shared, relationships become stronger and more resilient. Challenges are met with teamwork rather than blame. Communication becomes clearer because both people feel safe to express themselves. Trust deepens because both partners know they can rely on each other. This shared effort doesn't just strengthen the relationship, it also builds individual confidence and security. Knowing you're not alone, knowing your partner has your back, allows you to face the world with more courage and peace. In the end, relationships aren't just about love. They're about action. They're about the daily decisions we make to show up, to give, to listen, and to compromise. They're about carrying the weight together, not leaving one person to bear it alone. When both partners embrace this shared responsibility, love becomes more than a feeling. It becomes a living, breathing partnership built on mutual respect and unwavering support. Silence speaks volumes. In relationships, what isn't said can often be louder than words. It's easy to think that silence means peace, that no conflict means everything is fine. But silence can also signal withdrawal, disengagement, or unspoken disappointment. When someone stops sharing their thoughts, feelings, or concerns, it doesn't always mean they're content. It might mean they've given up trying to connect. It might mean they feel unheard, unseen, or exhausted from trying. Silence doesn't just happen overnight. It's often the result of many moments where efforts to communicate were met with indifference or misunderstanding. When silence settles in, it changes the dynamic of a relationship. The person who used to speak openly may begin to retreat inward. They might choose quiet over confrontation, even when something is deeply bothering them. This withdrawal can be a self-protective measure, a way to avoid further hurt or disappointment. But the more silence replaces communication, the more distance grows between partners. What was once a lively, engaging connection becomes a quiet, fragile thread. Silence creates a void where misunderstandings can fester and assumptions take the place of real conversations. The truth is, silence often carries unspoken messages. It can signal hurt that hasn't been addressed, frustrations that have built up over time, or a growing sense of disconnection. When someone stops sharing their feelings, they may be telling you in their own quiet way that they no longer feel safe to do so. They may be protecting themselves from vulnerability, fearing that their words will be dismissed or misunderstood. In this way, silence becomes a shield, a barrier that keeps others at a distance. It says, "I don't trust you to hear me," or "I'm too tired to keep trying." It's important to recognize that silence isn't always a conscious choice. Sometimes people fall silent because they don't know how to express what they're feeling. They might not have the words, or they might fear the reaction their honesty could provoke. Other times, silence is a result of learned behavior. Perhaps they've experienced in the past that speaking up only leads to conflict or dismissal. Whatever the reason, silence should never be ignored. It's a signal that something deeper is going on, something that needs attention before it's too late. When we encounter silence in a relationship, the natural response might be to fill the space with distractions or to avoid the discomfort by pretending everything is fine. But this only allows the silence to deepen. Instead, it's crucial to approach silence with curiosity and compassion, asking open-ended questions, creating a safe space for dialogue, and truly listening without judgment can help break the silence. It's about showing the other person that their voice matters, that their feelings are valid, and that you're willing to hear them without defensiveness. Ignoring silence is risky. Left unaddressed, it can turn into resentment, disconnection, and eventually the breakdown of the relationship. The longer silence lingers, the harder it becomes to bridge the gap it creates. What starts as a quiet withdrawal can turn into an unspoken agreement that the relationship no longer has room for honesty or growth. This is why it's so important to pay attention, not just to what's said, but also to what's left unsaid. Silence speaks volumes because it reflects the health of a relationship. When partners feel safe, seen, and valued, communication flows freely. When they feel dismissed or unheard, silence creeps in like a shadow. It's not just the absence of words. It's a reflection of trust eroding, of connection fading. And the only way to counter silence is through intentional, compassionate communication. It's about creating an environment where both people feel safe enough to speak their truth, knowing they'll be heard and respected. Ultimately, silence isn't just a pause in conversation. It's a message waiting to be heard. If we choose to listen, we might discover the keys to rebuilding connection and trust. If we ignore it, we risk losing the relationship altogether. Because in the end, silence always speaks. But whether we choose to listen is up to us. Asking for help shows humility and respect. It's a powerful gesture that says, value your insights, your strengths, and your presence. Many people mistake asking for help as a sign of weakness, but in reality, it's one of the most genuine expressions of connection and trust. When you ask someone for help, you're not just seeking assistance. You're acknowledging their worth and inviting them into a shared space where they can contribute. This act communicates that you don't see yourself as superior or infallible. Instead, you recognize that relationships thrive on mutual support and collaboration. In young relationships, where partners are still learning about each other's worlds, asking for help breaks down walls. It shows that you're willing to admit you don't have all the answers, and you trust the other person enough to share your uncertainty. This humility creates a safe space where both individuals can be authentic. It shifts the dynamic from one where each person tries to appear perfect to one where growth and learning are valued. You're not competing to be the most capable or the most independent. You're building a partnership where each person's strengths complement the others. Humility is a rare and underrated quality in relationship. It's easy to let pride dictate our actions, to pretend we don't need help, to insist on solving everything alone, to resist admitting when we're wrong or uncertain. But this kind of pride can create distance and resentment. It can make the other person feel excluded, unneeded, or undervalued. When you ask for help, you're doing the opposite. You're saying, I trust your perspective. I respect your abilities. I see you as someone I can lean on. This creates a deeper bond, one built not on ego but on genuine appreciation and interdependence. Asking for help also requires a certain level of self-awareness. It's an admission that you recognize your limitations and are willing to grow. This openness to learning is not only humbling, but also deeply respectful to your partner. It shows them that you value their unique experiences, insights, and skills. You're inviting them to share their knowledge and contribute to your journey. And in doing so, you're creating a space where they feel important and appreciated. It's a subtle but powerful way of saying, "You matter to me." Moreover, respect is a two-way street. When you ask for help with humility, you also model behavior that invites reciprocity. You show your partner that it's safe to ask for support, to admit vulnerabilities, and to lean on each other. This mutual respect and openness form the foundation of trust. It's not just about solving problems. It's about building a relationship where both people feel seen and valued for who they are, not just for what they can do. Consider a young couple navigating a new stage of their lives, whether it's moving in together, facing financial decisions, or handling family dynamics. If one partner tries to shoulder everything alone, it can create a sense of imbalance and isolation. But if they say, "I'm feeling overwhelmed with this, can we figure it out together?" They're not only seeking practical support, they're showing respect for the other person's input and creating a shared sense of responsibility. This simple act of humility can transform challenges into opportunities for connection and growth. Asking for help also reinforces the idea that relationships are not about proving individual capability, but about creating a partnership where both people contribute to each other's well-being. It's a reminder that no one has to have it all figured out. By embracing humility and showing respect through asking for help, you're nurturing a relationship built on honesty, trust, and mutual support. Over time, this creates a bond that is strong enough to weather life's inevitable challenges, because both partners know they are valued and respected. Reciprocity strengthens relationships. It's a concept as old as human connection itself. When we give to one another and receive in return, we create bonds that are not just functional, but deeply emotional. In the context of young relationships, reciprocity means showing up for each other, not out of obligation, but from a genuine desire to contribute to each other's well-being. It's about balance and mutual care, where both partners recognize the value of giving and the vulnerability of receiving. When we enter a relationship, especially in its early stages, it's natural to want to impress the other person. We might give more than we receive, trying to prove our worth or our commitment. However, if this giving is not reciprocated over time, it can lead to feelings of resentment or imbalance. Healthy reciprocity means that both partners contribute, sometimes in small, almost invisible ways, and other times in grand gestures. It's not about keeping score, but about maintaining an equilibrium that makes both people feel valued and supported. Think about something as simple as a conversation. When one partner shares their worries, their hopes, or even just the details of their day, and the other listens with genuine interest and empathy, that's a form of reciprocity. It's an emotional exchange that reinforces the idea that both partners are willing to be there for each other. And over time, these small acts of listening and responding create a pattern of mutual respect and understanding. Each person learns that they can count on the other, not just for practical help, but for emotional support as well. Reciprocity also plays out in the willingness to ask for and offer help. When one partner asks for help, whether it's with a decision, a task, or even just a listening ear, they're giving the other an opportunity to contribute. This act of asking is often perceived as a gift because it allows the other person to feel useful, trusted, and important. And when that help is given freely, without resentment or hesitation, it strengthens the bond between them. It signals that the relationship is a safe space for both giving and receiving. In young relationships, it's easy to fall into the trap of imbalance where one person gives and the other takes, or where one partner feels they must always be strong and never ask for support. But over time, this dynamic can create distance. The giver may feel unappreciated or exhausted, and the receiver may feel disconnected or even guilty. True reciprocity counters this by creating a natural rhythm where both partners feel comfortable switching roles, sometimes the supporter, sometimes the supported, sometimes the supported. This balance isn't about keeping things perfectly equal at all times. Life circumstances will shift. One partner might face a crisis and need more support for a period, while the other provides it. Later, those roles might reverse. The key is the underlying commitment to mutual care. Knowing that you can lean on each other when needed builds a deep reservoir of trust. It's not just about individual acts of giving or receiving, but about creating a relationship where both people feel safe to express their needs and confident that they will be met with compassion. Reciprocity also fosters a sense of partnership. When both individuals contribute to the relationship's growth, whether by planning dates, handling responsibilities, offering encouragement, or simply sharing laughter, they create a shared sense of ownership. The relationship becomes a space they've built together, a place where each person's efforts are recognized and appreciated. This shared investment makes it easier to navigate challenges because both partners feel equally responsible for the relationship's success. Ultimately, reciprocity strengthens relationships because it turns love and care into action, transforms good intentions into meaningful gestures, and it creates a cycle where both partners feel valued and empowered. It's not about obligation or keeping score. It's about the joy of giving and the grace of receiving. And in this ongoing exchange, trust deepens, bonds strengthen, and love grows. Fear of judgment holds us back from building trust. It's a quiet but powerful force that often lurks beneath the surface of our interactions, especially in young relationships. When we're afraid of being judged, of being seen as imperfect, vulnerable, or somehow less than, we put up walls. We hide parts of ourselves. We pretend to be stronger, more confident, more capable than we really are. But in doing so, we limit the depth of connection we can experience. Trust isn't built on perfection. It's built on authenticity. And fear of judgment keeps us from showing up as our authentic selves. In the early stages of a relationship, both people are often cautious. They want to present the best versions of themselves, hoping to impress or at least not to scare the other person away. This is natural, but if the fear of judgment becomes too strong, it creates distance. Instead of being open about doubts, struggles, or even personal quirks, we hide them behind a facade of confidence. We say we're fine when we're not. We pretend to agree when we have a different opinion. We avoid asking for help or admitting weakness because we're afraid the other person will think less of us. The irony is that this fear doesn't protect us. It isolates. When we don't share our real selves, we're not giving the other person a chance to know us deeply. We're not allowing them to see the parts of us that are messy, complicated, or in need of support. Because we're not being real, we can't fully trust the other person either. How can we trust that someone loves us if they don't know who we truly are? How can we believe in the strength of the relationship if it's built on half-truths and careful performances? Trust grows when we take the risk of being seen. When we share our fears, admit our mistakes, or ask for help, we're inviting the other person into our world. We're saying, this is who I really am. Can you accept me, flaws and all? And when the other person responds with understanding, compassion, and support, trust deepens. We learn that we don't have to be perfect to be loved. We learn that we're safe to be vulnerable and that our real selves are worthy of connection. Fear of judgment also keeps us from being present in the relationship. When we're constantly worrying about how we're perceived, we're not fully engaged with our partner. We're distracted by self-criticism, second-guessing our words and actions, and trying to anticipate how the other person might react. This mental preoccupation makes it hard to listen deeply, to respond authentically, and to create the kind of shared experiences that build trust. Breaking free from the fear of judgment takes courage. It requires us to embrace imperfection and to recognize that vulnerability is not a weakness, but a strength. When we stop trying to control how we're seen and instead focus on being honest and present, we create space for genuine connection. We show the other person that we trust them enough to be real. And in turn, they're more likely to feel safe enough to be real with us. This mutual vulnerability is where trust flourishes. It creates a relationship dynamic where both people feel accepted and valued, not for their image or achievements, but for their authentic selves. Over time, as we practice this openness, the fear of judgment diminishes. We start to believe, not just in the relationship, but in our own worthiness of love and acceptance. And that belief becomes the foundation of a partnership that is resilient, supportive, and deeply trusting.